everyone, welcome to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce, and today I got one of my favorite guests. I got Christopher Pelton. I mean, this is your third time, man.
You make it very easy, sir. So we can get on and we can talk about all the stuff that was going on, and it's been a pleasant experience. I tell people about your show all the time. I've been sending you some folks to talk with, and the authors. They love you, man. Everybody I've talked to who's talked with you just has nothing but positive things to say. So I'm always happy to come on. So
man, it's been a pleasure. Listen, if you haven't seen our other two interviews, definitely check them out. They're amazing. Now, Christopher represents Psychotoxin Press, and you got some big news for us today, Christopher.
Got some very big news. First off, actually, before we get into that, yes. Let me congratulate you on the successful conclusion of your series, your 5 videos. Great stuff. I think you were forward about it. You didn't bullshit. I mean, everything was above board. I watched the interviews with the people who were involved in the contest and what they had to say. And, and other folks, like I'm seeing it pop up now, and you've definitely started, you lit that candle. So well done. Those videos are excellent. So, I've been making sure folks know, what's going on, because that's just some crazy crap. And I know you and I talked the other day about some alternatives, and we got some stuff in the works there. So I'm excited about
First of the year, guys. First of the year.
So the first thing going on is thanks to Hart Fisher and the folks over at American Horrors Network. I am now a producer for the network. So I get to add that on to, Psychotoxin publisher and now producer for American Horrors. We've got a lot going on the network. There's some technical stuff that we had talked about last time that Hart and I were on. That's all, from the looks of it, everything there has been resolved. The stream is up and running. It's solid. With new software, there's always new stuff to discover. And you're always going to encounter bugs. That's just technology. But things are looking smooth. The channel is continuing to grow. The numbers keep going up every time they get looked at. The viewer count's higher. The watch time is longer. So that's, they're hitting all of those things you're looking for in a television network. So Hart and I were talking the other day, and one of the things that we'd like to do, and he had been thinking about doing on the network, is more original programming, because the movies are great. The old movies, they're wonderful, but with stuff like Gorecast, and Hart's brought back the Heart Attack radio show, which is now, I think, on the network as well. So television radio, I'm not sure what the hybrid is, but the first one they just recorded or just aired Halloween. I want to say it was the weekend of Halloween, somewhere right around there. And I know he's going to be doing recording another episode pretty soon, from what I understand, is going to have its own special guest. So you should be you can make that announcement when the time's right.
I can make it now if you like.
Absolutely. Now, go ahead, man, because I know he's excited to talk to you, and so go ahead and share the good news there.
I will be the special guest on the Heart Attack coming up in the near future on American Horror on the Roku streaming. So
yes, the Roku streaming app, streamers on a budget, and always at AmericanHorrors.net. Stream is there live all the time. So if you don't have a Roku, if you don't, just AmericanHorrors.net. It's available everywhere. I had a friend of mine I was talking to recently about the new show, the new project that I'm going to be working on. And I assured them that, yes, even though they are in the UK, they can still watch American Horrors, because you can always go right to AmericanHorrors.net. So that being said, my show, the show that I'm working, I'm in the process of developing. It's going to take a little while. But I know, and Hart and I had spoken about, traditionally January and February are very slow month for publishing. Not a lot happens. It's the post-Christmas, crash and everything. But so I think what our plan is now is I've got a couple of projects in the works that we're going to talk about. But I think I'm going to take January and February and dedicate more of my energy into getting the pilot done for the show. The show right now, and I've talked to some people about it. They're all on the same page. Right now, I'm calling it Fans Labyrinth. And basically what it's going to be is it's going to be a show highlighting short indie films from indie filmmakers, because getting films distributed, period, is hard to do. Getting very short films distributed outside of like YouTube is very hard to do. So one of the things I want to do with the show is I want to take a segment of each episode of the show, and I want to highlight a short film from an independent horror creator, get them on the network, get them in front of the eyes, get them in front of we're over 10 million viewers now. So get them in front of those eyes, because you never know who's going to be watching. And the nice thing about the network is that we are a horror network. It's, there's no, there's, as Hart said in the past, there's we've got the old school stuff, and then we've got original programming, and we're going to be doing more original programming. My show's going to be about that. It's also going to do a feature. I'm also going to do a focus on a lot of the different hardcore or horrorcore musical acts out there. I've been coming across a lot of bands like Iceland Kills, who's at a higher level. They've kind of passed the indie band stage, but I wouldn't say that they're a very huge band yet. But they're very good at what they do. I dig a lot of their music. If Spencer sees this, I would love to talk to Spencer for like 5 minutes, just 5 minutes, man. That's all I'm asking. I got some great things that I'd love to pitch with him. So there's a lot of bands out there. There's a lot of musical acts out there doing this horror thing, incorporating this horror thing in their music. One of the groups that I just recently came across is a group. It's a hip hop duo out of West Virginia called Zombie Cult. And it's zombie with an E. Or with a 3 rather, so zombie with a 3, cult. And they're a 2-man hip hop group, and they've got some great music, man. The flows are tight, the backing tracks are great. I mean, it's a solid, they're solid. If you're into hip hop, it's a solid thing, and they work those horror elements into their music. So I want to focus on that. I want to give a spotlight to groups like that on the show as well, because again, outside of YouTube, it's hard to get distribution for videos, especially now. There's no music video channels anymore.
None.
So nobody's calling and saying, hey, we want to put your video on our show. We want to, like, shows like 120 Minutes back in the 90s broke a lot of those alternative bands. That doesn't really exist in that way anymore. So I want to use part of the show, part of the network, and get those eyes on that as well. And then the third element of the show, I want to focus on fan films, because I have seen over the last few years, I've seen some amazing fan films.
I have too.
And the quality of them it's professional quality. I mean, they're theatrical release ready, some of the films that I've seen. But you run into the copyright problem. And it's weird, because as someone who creates for a living, obviously copyright is very important to me. But at the same time, I love a good story. So I'm a big supporter of fan films. I'm a big supporter of fan edits. I'm a big supporter of fan fiction. As long as everybody stays in their lane as far as copyright goes, don't try to make money off of something that you don't own. It's not worth it. I saw something the other day. Somebody had posted a book, and they were bitching because, nobody had bought their book. And it was this fan fiction story based in the Halloween universe, and from what I understand, is poorly written, and it's a blatant it's a cash grab or something, and even if the copyright holder doesn't come after you, it's really not looked fondly on by the community. And
so I have a question.
Sure,
Christopher, how do you get around the copyright when it comes to that?
Well, it's weird, because a lot of the studios, and it was Lucasfilm and Paramount were the first two to be very laid back about the fan fiction, fan film community. They knew what was going on. They knew that suing their fans is stupid. It's just, I mean, I understand you want to keep control of your copyright. I understand the importance of owning your characters. I completely do. But if I'm not out to make money off of it, if I'm doing this because I love your property and I put my own money into it and I'm not making any money into it, and it's just something I did because I love your property and I want to show my love of your property for the world. A lot of studios over the years have been like, okay, as long as there's no money being made, it's primarily, and again, they exist in a legal gray area, and the studios will tell you that as well. But a long time ago, the studios realized that suing your fans is not the way you want to, conduct business. So what I'm doing, and it came up in a conversation that I had been having because we were trying to figure out how these fan films can exist on YouTube, because somebody on YouTube's making money off of them. I mean, they have to. Every video on YouTube is there's an ad somewhere or another. So that was the question that got raised, and I'm like, well, if YouTube's able to do it, and yeah, copyright strikes happen and stuff comes down, they're making money. Somebody's making money somewhere on it, and the artists and the people who created it aren't the ones making money on it. But like YouTube is there's no way they're not.
Correct.
Even if it's pennies, they're making money on it. So my idea for the show is any commercial time that'll be allotted to the show is going to be used for internal advertising. We're going to advertise Psychotoxin products. We're going to advertise American Horror stuff. We're going to advertise Boneyard Press stuff. We're going to advertise. So there's no money being generated from ad sales because we're not selling ads during that period of time. So my plan is to lead in with internal ad spots and lead out with internal ad spots. And then if we have ads in the middle, they'll be for internal stuff. So nobody's going to make any money on us airing these films. If we get a copyright strike, we get a copyright strike, and we'll take it down. That's fine. Yeah. Better to ask forgiveness than permission. So, but again, if I want these films to be seen because I know the passion that people are putting into making these films. I know how hard this is to do, and to do it with your own money, with the thought in your mind that I'm never going to make any money on this. I can't. That's passion. That's a passion. That's a passion for a fandom. I mean, you're spending thousands of dollars, and even as the technology has improved and gotten cheaper, some of the stuff that I've seen done by fans, I mean, that's thousands and thousands of dollars worth of work and money spent on, the various things. I mean, filmmaking is a collaboration. One person doesn't make a film by themselves. So there's always a group involved. And then this is a group of people who are so passionate that they don't care that it's costing them money, because they want to do this so the world can see that I'm the fan. Like, I love this. Like, there was this guy who made a shot-for-shot remake of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Really?
And he did it over a course of like years, because they would only do it when they had time to get everybody together and they had money to do whatever. And eventually it came out, and then there was a documentary made about the making of. So it was a big thing for a little while, but it was amazing to see this group of people just keep coming together because they believed in this project so much that whenever they had time away from work, or they had time, whatever the case may be in their lives, they took that time, they took that vacation time, or they took that, and they came back together to continue to work on that movie over time. So, I mean, to me, that if that's not love for a character, what is? And as a person who as an owner of characters, if you're not making money off of my work and you're doing it justice, like, I can understand. Certainly there are lines. If you're a copyright holder and you own the copyright to Spider-Man, you don't want to see a video online of like Spider-Man, fucking a pig. I mean, I understand, even though nobody's making money on that. I understand there's a line, because you have to be respectful of the character. You have to be respectful of the copyright. So my plan is to keep it commercial free, or commercial ad sales free. And I figure if nobody's making money off of it, all it's doing is helping expose these artists who are clearly talented enough to be working in the field, doing other things, doing bigger projects, working with, bigger independent film houses or whatever. I mean, because some of the stuff I've seen from these guys is just, it's unbelievable.
Christopher, I 100% agree. I've seen 2 fan films in the last couple months. One, I interviewed the director. I can't think of his name, but he did a Harley Quinn from like Batman fan film. It was dark. It was gritty. It was amazing. And I seen a Friday the 13th one. That I was
Never,
like, wow,
did you see Never Hike Alone?
Yes,
that was amazing.
That's better than some of the actual Friday the 13th movies.
Certainly better than the remake. I can tell you that much. That
remake, I like the remake. But
there's a sequel coming. He's had a sequel in the works for like the last year. So I'm looking forward to that. But I mean, and there's a perfect example. I mean, the rights issues with Jason are still a friggin' mess. But the passion that this guy has for this product, I mean, and I've seen he's been invited to conventions and stuff like that, and I understand that he's been talking to studios and stuff, and that's what I love about like A24 and the work that they're doing and the work that Blumhouse is doing, and they're taking those chances, because if you can turn a movie out for $1 million and that movie makes $100 million, I mean, that's a no-brainer there, and as long as you can maintain the quality. I mean, that was the thing I've never seen to this day. I still haven't seen Paranormal Activity, but as an independent creator, I admire the shit out of what they did for that first movie. $15,000 budget and a marketing campaign like we hadn't seen since the Blair Witch, and
shit out of me. That movie scared the shit out of the original.
The marketing campaign on that movie was genius, and they built up that demand, and they let you see just a little bit, like, oh, you 50 people can see it tonight, and then, oh no, next town over, you 50. Yeah. So I mean, the way that they spread it was fucking genius.
Yes.
And now, I mean, I know now there's like 100 movies in the series, and they vary in quality, but that marketing plan for that first movie, those cats need to be acknowledged for a brilliant job. So that's what I'm going for with the show. I want to be able to shine a spotlight on the passion that these indie creators have for what they do. And I want to help them get exposure, because, I mean, if I can do something to help this band, and, somebody sees that band on our show and they call them and say, hey, man, you want to come play at our club in 2 weeks? Well, that's great. That's eyes on this band that wouldn't have seen this band otherwise. And that's what I want to do. I want to shine that light on these folks, because they're so passionate about what they do. And there's such a weird legality behind, especially with the fan films, there's such a weird legality behind it that, I want to make sure that we can do it in a safe, manner. And I want people to because that work deserves to be seen. And it's really weird now, because even now, like, there's a Friday the 13th fan film coming out. I think it's called Blood Loss.
Yes.
And it stars Beatrice Biopel. I love Beatrice to death. I still don't know how to pronounce her last name. And she was in Nightmare on Elm Street 5, and Mark Patton's in it, and he was in Elm Street 2. And there's like horror, horror people in it, but it's still a fan film. So like for me, that's exciting, because it's like even now the horror folks from the 80s are now like they're stars because of the convention scene.
Yep.
I mean that, and you do a lot of shows, you've been to a lot of conventions, and you meet people, and these people are just like some of the greatest people
some of the most
I've
amazing
ever met in my life. They're so nice. And then I hear stories, just to sidetrack for a moment, about like some of the stuff that went on at Monster Mania this weekend, with people charging for autographs and pictures, like table pictures, not, and like, oh, well, they're charging $60 for an autograph, but they're charging $100 to sign a Funko Pop, so like there's a lot. And the weird thing is, I saw 3 names, and I'm not going to drop names, but I saw 3 names that were mentioned most recently with like weird table stuff. And of the entire guest list, they were like 3 of 5 people I had never fucking heard of. So, and I've been doing this shit a long time. So it's like, it's like, why is it that the newest people are the most fucking difficult? It's like who are you again?
It's always the ones who you don't know who the fuck they are, who have the crazy prices at these conventions. Right. And you would think that they would have, but also too, they're always the ones with the shittiest personalities.
That's
when you meet them.
That's what kills me. And it's like
no one knows who the fuck you are. Like, yeah, can you be a little more flattered that people are actually coming up to pay to take a picture with you or whatever?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, it was weird because I did a show earlier this year down in Maryland, and I met Henry Thomas. Now, I hadn't seen Hill House. I hadn't seen any of the Mike Flanagan series from Netflix. So the only reason I knew Henry Thomas was because he was in E.T. And I'm like, and super nice guy, but I'm like, why is the kid from E.T. here as a grown man? That seems weird. Like, no, E.T. is what it is. It's and people love that movie. It was the highest grossing film of all time for a while. But now that, and since then I've seen all the Mike Flanagan stuff, so now it makes a lot more sense why Henry Thomas was there. But it seemed, but super nice guy though, very chill, very polite, very nice, talked, came out, was bullshitting with the vendors, it was super nice guy. But yeah, but I hear from people who go to Monster Mania and they're like, these 3 people who've been in like 2 horror movies, and it's like, who the hell are you? Why are it's like you go, it's like people are calling you, and it's weird because there's so many conventions now. It's
Christopher, there's so many that I can't keep up with them. Like, I would go, I go to, the goal is for the horror room to be at every horror convention in this country, but there's so many new ones popping up.
It's insane.
I don't have time to get to all of them. I don't have the money to get to all of them either. Like it's a lot.
Well, I'm going to start reaching out now with American Horrors, because I don't see any reason why we shouldn't be at these shows. We shouldn't be out there meeting indie filmmakers. We shouldn't be out there meeting, people with YouTube series. So we should be there. We should have a presence there. And Hart and I
have a better idea for you.
What's that?
I got a better idea for you.
Okay.
How about an indie horror convention?
Here's the thing with a convention.
Okay.
Well. Let me. There's something in the works right now that I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm in a position to talk about right now, but there is something in the works for later next year, which might function in a similar manner. I'm not sure yet, but the thing is and I would love to do an indie convention. I would love to have authors out. I would love to have filmmakers out. I would love to be able to get people together in a room and be like, what do you got? Let's talk about, let's talk about the world. We would have to find a place to do it somewhere. I can't do it here. We can't do it in where I live. Nobody does shows where I live because I'm 45 minutes outside of New York City, and people from New York City don't travel here for conventions. We travel there for conventions. So that's why there's no shows, despite the ridiculous amounts of money per capita where I live. I don't have any, but a lot of people around me have a lot of money.
Yes.
So it's and it took a friend of mine who's been doing conventions for like 45 years to tell me, because I was like, there's so much money here, and I know there's a culture, I know there's a horror culture, I know there's a nerd culture. I meet them all the time. We have the Lockwood Matthews Mansion in Norwalk, where they shot one of the Dark Shadows films back in the 70s. That place is cool as hell. Why aren't we doing something there? Why don't we have a, you know what I'm saying? Why don't we have like an indie horror festival on the grounds outside of the mansion that was in this movie? Because nobody will come to Fairfield County because the New Yorkers stay in New York or they go to New Jersey.
So go to one in Hartford. What's that? Connecticut?
Hartford's an hour and a half from me. And there's 2 places in Hartford well, there's three places. No, there's two places in Hartford to do conventions. There's the XL Center, which has its problems. And then there's the Connecticut Convention Center, which is a great place. I like it a lot. I did a bunch of toy shows there when I was selling toys. The only problem with that place, and it never occurred, it would never occur to you until it happens. There's only one PA system for the whole building. The building's two floors. They do upstairs exhibitions, downstairs exhibitions. So when I was there the last time for a toy show, we were supposed to be there until 7. But upstairs there was a bridal show, and that bridal show was ending at 5. So the announcement went out over the PA at 4:30, telling everybody that the show would be closing at 5 o'clock. But there's only one PA system for upstairs and downstairs. So everybody who was downstairs at a show that was supposed to go until 7 was all of a sudden sitting around going, what the fuck? So that's the only real problem I've ever had there. Their loading is easy. Everything else is really easy. But the communication problem between upstairs and downstairs is a bit of an issue. The place I was in when I was in Maryland was where they did the Monster Mania conventions.
No more. I mean, that's the last time.
Up until recently, they're tearing the place down, which is good because it was a goddamn dump.
It was. It really was.
When I was there,
and I live in Maryland, and yeah. I've been going to that thing for years. It is a dump. I mean, there's no parking, and it's a nightmare.
It's horrible. I was there. The escalators to downstairs, one of them was broken.
Yep.
So you can only run one at a time. So it's like, okay, that doesn't really work for a lot of ADA people. It doesn't work for elderly people. There's a lot of problems with that broken escalator thing.
Have you ever actually stayed in that hotel?
I did
It's
because
disgusting.
It is. It's horrible.
It's disgusting.
The air conditioning downstairs was like a meat locker. We're all sitting there bundled up. It's fucking like May, I think it was, and we're all like, it's fucking freezing.
And it's just be stinking.
Yeah,
it's just body odor is on another level.
And the worst part about it was, and I feel really bad for these people. There was a wedding upstairs that Saturday, and I don't know who booked it first. Like, I don't know if the wedding was there and then they added the horror show, or it went the other way around. But the upstairs lobby is filled with advertisements for the horror show downstairs.
I've seen that too.
And these poor people are trying to get married, and they're bringing they're in their tuxedos, and they're in their nice dresses, and they're walking through this lobby, and there's all these horror freaks hanging around because
drunk and high.
and I'm like, I don't know who dropped the ball on that booking thing, but fuck me, I'd have been mad as hell if I was the wedding party.
I've seen several times where there was a wedding taking place while that horror convention was going on. I was like, who the fuck would book their wedding at the same venue as a horror convention going on?
Well, I gotta think they weren't told. I mean, there's no way. Why would you? I mean, unless you were there
and
first.
I'm a horror fan, and I wouldn't want that.
Unless you were there first as the wedding, and then they booked the horror show. But there still should have been a conversation at some point to let the bride and groom and the wedding party know, oh, by the way, when you come in, there's going to be a bunch of misfits.
And there's going to be no fucking parking. It's going to be
no fucking parking.
There's going to be no fucking parking at all.
Yeah, it's a terrible venue. And the worst part about it was that when I was there, Monster Mania had been there 2 weeks before. And that same weekend in Baltimore was the big sci-fi convention that you guys have that's been running since 1967. And people like Asimov and Neil Gaiman and George R.R. Martin have been on their guest list. So the horror crowd had been there 2 weeks earlier and blown their money at Monster Mania, which was a much bigger convention. And then that same weekend, all of the sci-fi and genre folks are in Baltimore because you've got the big sci-fi convention that's been running for 50 fucking years. So it was badly planned. It was executed okay, but the problems with the venue just couldn't be overlooked.
I would not do if I'm not telling anybody not to, but business wise, marketing wise, Travis, I would not do another convention. I mean, Baltimore is, listen, if you're a horror fan, Baltimore, Maryland is near where you need to live because there's so many fucking horror conventions.
Well,
I mean, we have a lot.
It's because of Poe.
Yes, we have
That's exactly why.
I think we have somewhere between like 10 to 12 a fucking year, which
that's too many.
No fucking other state has that many at all.
And you're one of the smallest states.
Yes. Yes.
You know, I know I'm in Connecticut. I'm like, we're like the third smallest state. So I get it. You know, but yeah, I don't think they have that many in fucking Texas. And Texas has a bunch. And I want to go. It's the only time in my life I want to go to Texas is because
Texas has tons.
They have a ton of them, and they're all well attended, and they're all well run. And like I sent people there 2 years ago to Texas Fright Fest or Texas Horror Weekend, or I don't know, some big convention in Texas. And I sent somebody there. This is when I was selling toys to get autographs on some Funko Pops. And they said that the convention ran great, but Carl Weathers was there.
Oh,
and I wanted to get him to sign some of the Happy Gilmore Pops.
Mm-hmm.
$300.
Carl Weathers is outrageous. His price is outrageous. Like his.
I was like, "Are you fucking?" It's like you're not Stallone, dude. I hate to break it to you.
His prices are out. I forgot what convention I was at, and I had my Apollo Creed Funko Pop. You know, I collect Funko Pops, and I saw his price, and I think it wasn't $300, but it was up there. It was up there close to $300, and I was like, nah, I don't need his autograph that bad.
No, I don't need anybody's autograph that bad. You know, it's like, and then one of the things that I saw, and I know we're off topic. We'll get back around to it.
That's what happens on the show, man.
That's true. You know, it's one of those things where I saw a lot of videos from Monster Mania this past weekend, and a lot of what I saw was just people standing in line. And it's like, you guys, you paid all that money to go. You paid all that money to get in. You paid all that money, you know, and it's like, and as a vendor, it's maddening because you see all these people, but they're not spending any money.
I say that so many times, but that's why when I do my walkthrough videos, I spend my money on the vendors. I try to give them a plug and everything because yes, the lines are so. Christopher, I'm telling you here right now, I don't do as many horror conventions as I used to. I used to do a lot. And I don't know if it's because I'm older now, I'm 41 now or something. I just can't. I used to love getting autographs. I should, have a list. But I just can't do the fucking lines anymore, man. I'm being dead serious. Like I used to have a secret. I used to go Friday nights. There would be no lines. But the people have gotten on that now. And like, I just can't do the fucking lines. I mean, there's no way in hell I'm waiting for 4 hours to meet Kiefer Sutherland. It's not happening. There's no one I'm waiting for an hour for. There's no one I want to meet that much.
No, and especially if you look at it and it's like it's an 8-hour day or it's a 10-hour day, depending on the show and everything. Mm-hmm. So you're gonna go and for an 8-hour day you're gonna stand in line for half the day to meet one person. That's insane. I mean, I'm not going to hate on anybody for their fandom, and I'm not going to tell a grown person how to spend their money. But for me, I mean, there's so many other things to see at a good convention that just standing in line just to meet somebody for 5 minutes.
I still don't have. Listen, I'm a huge Freddy Krueger fan. I still don't have Robert Englund's autograph. I got a picture of him I got for free in the hotel bar at Monster Mania in Hunt Valley. Yes, I mean, we're taking a shot. He bought me a shot. We're taking a shot, and that was free. But I was like, I am not. Every time I go to and see him in the convention, I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm going to go get his autograph. And then when I see that fucking line wrapped around the fucking building, I'm like, I mean, it's in the cold, it's in the rain, whatever. I see that line wrapped around, I'm like, never mind. And I go inside. Like, I just can't do it.
Yeah, and I mean, and I'm happy. I'm happy for him. I mean, I'm glad
Yeah,
the folks come
that's
out and,
amazing.
I mean, Robert Englund's great. I've been watching Robert Englund since V. So, I mean, like when I found out he was Freddy, I was really surprised because he was the friendly alien in V, and it was really weird because I was like 9 or 10 and probably shouldn't have seen Elm Street at that point. But I had a super fun, super gay uncle, and horror movies were his thing. So like we would hang out and we would watch horror movies. So that was always fun. But so anyway, so yeah, so
Yes,
hopefully next year American Horrors is going to be out at conventions because I do believe we should be out there. We should have a
should.
presence. You know, Big Book of Dahmer is still in the works. There were some more snafus with the network, which pushed back to publishing. It happens. We have launched Boneyard Toxin, which is our new extreme horror line. Hart and I have teamed up.
Nice.
We were talking about it last time. We were both on the show. It is official. The logo is done. And we have launched. We're looking at putting a few of them in the bank before we launch because
Okay.
Hart wants to be more involved in the covers, which is great. I'm not going to argue with him. He's on a Brian Lumley cover kick. Like he has all these old Brian Lumley paperbacks. So he's kind of on this weird Lumley kick right now. So he's like, I want to do, I'm like, all right, man. It's like, look, just as long as we can get them done so we can get them out in a timely manner, do what you got to, do what you want to do. So that's happening. And I've already got 3 or 4 books lined up for that. So that'll be rolling out next year. Poems for the Dead is almost done. Covers, we've decided we're going to do 3 different covers. We're doing a limited edition hardcover, which will be limited to 100 copies. They will be signed and numbered by Hart, by hand. We're not going to do book. We were talking about book plates, but we figured an easier way to do it. So he's going to sign and number all those. He may do little sketches depending on the mood he's in. You never know. We're going to do a special cover for the hardcover. We're going to do a different cover for the regular paperback run that we'll release on Amazon. And that we'll have at tables and stuff when we do shows. And then we're going to do with Hart's friend Trike opening a new comic store. We're going to be doing a short run, a limited edition that'll be exclusive to his store out there in Wisconsin. So that's in the works. We're doing some color, playing around with some colors for the cover. So that should be done. That should be done before the holidays. We want to get that done so people can pick it up during Christmas. And
Definitely need a copy of that bad boy.
yes, absolutely. You are on our list for many things. So that's what's going on there. So yeah, Boneyard Toxin. That's the official name we decided on. We kicked a few things back and forth, but I had kind of been calling it that already anyway, so it just kind of worked out. And it's cool, and the logo is great. It's a combination of the Psychotoxin eye and the Boneyard Press Scream Baby. So that's a good one. So that was that. We've officially launched a YA imprint for Psychotoxin. We had published a YA book last month. Stephen Farkas's Summer Camp Zombies was our first YA book. And I had a couple people reach out to me about YA project. And I've been looking to do some more stuff. And I've been watching, I don't know if you've seen it, but the new Goosebumps series is excellent on Netflix. Really good. So that kind of got my mind spinning a bit with doing some more YA stuff. And we've talked to a couple people. I got a great collection of stories called The Worst Thing You Ever Did. And it is by a writer named Dawn Colclasure. I always rush through her last name and I mispronounce it. Colclasure. And it's a delightful book. And what we've decided to do, because we were talking, a couple of other quick announcements, speaking of Psychotoxin. I have brought on some more members of the team. I have brought Brandon Wills in. He is going to be our YA editor. He'll be out pitching the brand, talking to folks, getting submissions, taking a look, seeing what's what. So he's very excited about that. He's dove in and he's working on a anthology of YA YA stories inspired by Goosebumps.
Nice.
So that's in the works. Once that's collected, that will actually go to our new anthology editor, Jennifer Horgan, who is a phenomenal human being, an amazing writer, very talented, and a hell of an editor. Eagle eyes, like all day, like picked out. I made the announcement that she was the editor, new anthology editor, and she edited my post. So right on there. Jennifer's great. Jennifer actually is the writer. The last time we talked, I had mentioned I had a writer in Canada who was fleeing the wildfires, or we thought was going to. That was Jennifer. So she's very excited to be on the team. Very happy because there are two. Well, there's actually three anthologies. Two of them I can talk about. The other one's still floating around. We're trying to knock some stuff down. The first one, which is terribly exciting, is going to be called Lonely Hearts. And Lonely Hearts is going to be a horror concept anthology based on Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band.
Nice.
Each one of the writers, the premise for the project is that in 1867, a fire ripped through the town of Lonely Hearts, Arizona, and it destroyed the town, and it killed Sgt. Pepper and his band, who were playing at the Opera House. Fast forward to today, and a group of campers or hikers or urban explorers or whatever people come across the destroyed town. They come across the destroyed Opera House, and all of the stories in the book are going to be based off of the title of the track, but not necessarily the track itself. So like it'll start with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band and then go into the rest of the album. And each of the authors has taken a track, and they've got a chat room. We've got a chat room going between them, and they're weaving stuff in and out between their different stories. And each of them is going to tell a story about either from the 1860s period or from the modern day period, or so there's going to be a cool mixing of stories. I'm very much looking forward to it. T.C. Ford, who is a comics industry veteran, he's been in the comics industry over 40 years. He has graciously, he said he's going to draw the cover. Actually reached out to me, was very excited about the project. And he was like, I'd love to do the cover. I'm like, sure, all right, man. I'm like, I've seen his work. His work's great. And he was very excited about it. And I was like, hey, that works for me, man. I would love to see what you come up with. And then he brought Robert aboard, and Robert is also a 40-year comics veteran who's been writing in comics for 40 years. So he wanted to get involved. So he actually ended up taking Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band and The Reprise, which is stories I was going to write. But hey, guy's a 40-year pro. I'm not going to argue with him. Not sure. Right? I will leave that to the professionals. And so on top of that, I reached out to my buddy Marcus, who did the score for Mia Dahlia's book Discordant, and he is going to give me his imagination or his take on what Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album might sound like with these dark stories. So there'll be an original soundtrack to go along with this book, and I've got a grand vision in my head for this book, and I think it's going to be really cool. Oh, and the guy who's writing the introduction for the book is a guy who has been involved with the Beatles camp since the 70s. So nice. I've got a tremendous team come together on this, and it's going to be a great project, and it's going to be a fun project, and it's going to be one of those things that it's so weird now. I haven't had to do any open submission calls lately. Mm-hmm. All I have to do now is throw an idea out on Facebook, and people just be like, "Hey, let's do this," and I'm like, "Okay, sure." So, which is great. I mean, it's fabulous. The talent's coming to me. That means I must be doing something right. So it's been very cool. And then our last new team member is the absolutely delightful Kat Galore, who is an amazing writer. She's written some good stuff there. And she actually, and only one other person, actually only two other people know what I'm about to tell you, so I'll make the announcement here. Kat is actually now officially a member of the Psychotoxin team. She has been on as a partner in Psychotoxin Press. She is going to be handling our formatting and design layout. Her new book, Kill Your Darlings, is coming out the end of the month. It's a great collection of short stories that are all inspired by rejection letters she got for those stories.
Wow.
Yeah. So
See, I would love to read that.
it is
I
a
would love to
great
read
book.
that.
It is a great collection. The cover is amazing. And that one's going to be a good release, and that'll be coming out the 28th, the last Tuesday of the month, the 28th.
Okay.
This coming week, we have tomorrow, the 14th, we'll be releasing Juice by Philip Killing, which is a horror story about wine and how wine is made, and the people who, I don't know what, there's a term, fancy wine people.
Connoisseur, yeah.
Yeah, it's in the book. The word's in the book. I had to keep telling my spell check that it was right. I'm like, no, that's the right word. Just don't recognize it because nobody uses it.
Yeah.
But so that's a really fun book. That may actually be one I can get my sister to read, because my sister doesn't read a lot of horror books, but she does drink a lot of wine. So now she does, but I love her. She's all right. So that's coming out Tuesday. Next week, what's coming out next week? I don't know. Oh, so I skipped ahead. We were talking about the YA in print.
And the contest.
We were talking about the contest. What happened was I was talking to one of the writers, and they had I had sent them, or I had sent one of the art team an early copy of the book to read, just to get an opinion. People who might know YA horror better than I do. And I got very positive feedback. And one of the things that I was told was that her son, who was 13, would be a big fan of the book, would love to read the book. And my brain snapped on, and it went, hey, you look at books come out, and they've all got author blurbs on the cover, or they've got author blurbs on the back cover. So-and-so thinks this book is, the greatest thing since sliced bread, blah, 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 which is great, and author blurbs are wonderful. They do they attention. They do help sell books. I will never knock a great author blurb. But one group of people I realized who didn't give a shit about author blurbs were kids. Kids don't know. They don't know these people. They don't, they don't know who Joe Hill is. They don't know, they're kids. They don't know. So I thought to myself, kids would be more apt to read a book if that book was recommended to them by another kid. So that was the idea. So that was the genesis. And this is what I love about the people that I work with. That was the genesis of the idea, was to get a kid to do a review of this new book and just, give me a blurb so I can put it on the cover, and I'd put the kid's name and the kid's age. And there you go. A kid has read this book. This is what this kid thinks. You're a kid. There you go.
Yeah.
And then it started to evolve a little. And so what we're doing is, it's currently running. It's going to the end of the month. November 30th is the last day for submissions. We are sending out early copies of the book to any readers between the ages of 11 and 16. We are asking that they read the book, and they can write a review of the book somewhere between 250 and 500 words, which may be a little bit, but I'm not going to be a stickler about word count. They're kids. And then the very best reviews we're going to print in the book as like an early praise section of the book. And the best review will get the cover blurb. And I have decided that we are going to send out print copies of the book to all of the kids who write a review, and their review will be printed in the book. So they'll have that for the rest of their lives. And then the winner will also get a Psychotoxin t-shirt, and I'm going to have a print made up, a nice, like 11 by 16 print made up of the cover of the book with their blurb on the top. And then, we'll send it off, and they get a nice little gift bag and with some swag in it, and they get their book. Their name will be on the cover of the book, and hopefully,
You actually ran this past me a couple of days ago. I was like, "That's a fucking great idea, Christopher!" Amazing fucking idea.
I never see it. I never see.
Oh, no one gives a crap about kids' opinions, even if it's something for kids.
Yeah, But like if you were a kid, if you were a 9-year-old or 10-year-old and you saw a book and that book said, "Oh, this book is Spooky and Ooky by, Nathan,
Yes.
age 12," you'd be like, "Oh, hey, that sounds good, Nathan,
It's
age 12."
relatable.
Right,
Exactly.
exactly. So I was like, you know what, kids, I will do anything to get kids to read, anything, because there is no more important thing than children reading. It's people can say what they like about J.K. Rowling and her unpopular points of view nowadays. Not my fight, not my dog. But she got kids to read.
She did.
R.L. Stein got kids to read.
R.L. Stein got me to read when I was a kid. I mean, he really did.
So for me to be in a position where I can maybe do something and inspire that next generation of kids to read more, that I feel like that's a responsibility I have. I think, as a parent, I mean, my kid is grown, she's 27, but I think that shining a light. I mean, first off, if we don't get more kids to read, then there's not going to be anybody reading in 20 years, in 30 years. You can already you can already see that with the magazine industry and to a point the comic industry. If there's no next generation, then that's the end of things. So anything I can do, I will publish books till I'm blue in the face for kids if kids are reading those books, because to me that's
100%.
nothing's more important than that to me. So